So I finished the last video just looking at how we put things into their domains. So we're just going to look at what makes up those different domains, kingdoms, and their phylums and class and order and stuff this lesson. Now, first thing is to try and remember which order it goes in. Now, there's mnemonics to help you remember how it gets smaller along the way. Now, when I was at school, we didn't know about domains, so you'd start a kingdom, and it was king penguins can only fly geographically south. So that was the mnemonic that I learned at school. So obviously, each one mnemonic is where the first letter of each one refers to the thing you're trying to remember. So the one they've got here on this PowerPoint was, does Kennard play classical or folk guitar songs? Now it's up to you what you use to remember. You can come up with your own one, but for me, it's always going to be king penguins can only fly geographically south. Okay, and then I just need to remember there's domain at the top and then subspecies at the bottom. So we're putting that into practice. You need to know an example of each one. So if we're talking about like it says here, learn a mnemonic, one animal example, one plant example. So you've got the plant here, you've got the animal species. So the domain, they're going to belong to the eukaryotes. The kingdom, they're from the animal kingdom. Chordata, which is going to be the backbone. They're mammals, they belong to primates, and from that branch, primates, they're hominids, which then gets broken down to Homo and then to sapiens. So that's how you'd know the kingdom, the phylum, the class, the order, the family, the genus, and then the species of this animal. If we're doing it for a meadow buttercup, then it's also a eukaryote. It's going to be from the plant kingdom, and from the plant kingdom, it's then put into the phylum of a spermaphyte. Its class is the Dicotyledonous. It's like in the order of magnolias, and then it's going into the family of ranunculars, and then it's Ranunculus acris at the bottom. Okay. So that would be if we're writing it down for Meadow Buttercup as opposed to writing Meadow Buttercup, you'd write Ranunculus acris. Okay. And then just see like, well, how do I know which plant kingdom it belongs to? There are characteristics that are different ones. So you have your vascular plants and then your non-vascular plants. So your vascular plants are going to be things with vessels in, like it's got the word vascular there. So whereas the non-vascular won't have that. So that's your mosses and your algae. Okay. So we need to know about the different things in there. So you've got your bryophytes, which is your mosses, your hornworts, your liverworts. They don't have any vascular tissues. Tells us what they're like in terms of leaves, roots, and stems. They've got no roots, very simple leaves, and they produce spores. You've then got your ferns, which have vascular tissue. They're going to have short, non-woody stems, and they're going to have roots present, and they produce spores. Then you've got your conifers, which have roots. They've got woody stems. Leaves are usually narrow, so this is going to be like your pine trees and things. And they produce seeds, the cones, and they have vascular tissues. And then you have your angiospermophytes, which are your flowering plants, which are probably your more traditional ones you think of with a plant. And they have leaves and roots, which are vary in structure, and they have stems, which can be woody, like shrubs and trees. So not all trees are going to be conifers. Some of them are going to be fitting into here, and they produce seeds as well. So that would be for the plants. To make sure you know for the plant kingdom how it's divided up, and make sure you know the features of your bryophytes, your ferns, your conifers, and your flowering plants. Okay, and then you need to do the same for the your animals which have a backbone traditionally. So the ones that you may have done when you're in year 7, you may have learned about these in terms of your birds, your amphibians, your mammals, your reptiles, your fish. Way of remembering these is just your farm animals really bug me would be a way of doing it. Now fish, strictly they have got different classes. It's got 3 similar classes, but for the sake of this, you just need to know the characteristics of each. You should know, we're looking at this one's here, which one goes with which. So there you go. If you didn't have that, if you didn't know that, then I think we need to come and see me and have a little word with me. But you need to know the features of each. So mammals, their limbs. So we're looking at the limbs, gas exchange, reproduction, other features to make sure you're familiar with the characteristics of each one of each one of these. Any problems, ask me about that. And then we come on to the other like animal kingdom ones, and these are the ones without a backbone. So other phylum. So these are more difficult. And if we want to try to identify them, then you may want to just use a key to do that. And we'll come back to a key in a second. So if we try to identify these, so you'd have your mollusks over here, your arthropods, your annelids, which is generally your worms, your cnidarians, and then you got your Porifera and your Platyhelmintha. And you need to know the structures of these. So again, but not as much detail as like your animals or your backbones. So for your vertebrates here, so if you distinguish from the animal phyla, you can see you've got your sponges, your corals, your flatworms, your earthworms, your mollusks, your arthropods, and then your chordata, which is what we said before for your fish, birds, and mammals. So how we divide them up into the different groups. So make sure you're familiar of, if it's a mollusk, what kind of things would be expected to see. If it was a flatworm, what kind of things would we expect to see? Okay, so make sure you are aware of those. And then from there, we can use features to help us do a key. Now, you may have done keys in lower school or in primary school to help you identify things. So if we're trying to identify some of these, let's say we looked at this one here. So we want to identify what this is. Is it symmetrical? We'd go, well, it's pretty much symmetrical. Yeah, there's loads of symmetry on there. So we'd say yes, we'd go to question 2. So symmetry is radial. Yeah, we're going to say it's radial. So this belongs to the phylum Cnidarian. So we'll put that one in there. And then you would go along for the next one. So we'd do the same thing. Its symmetry is going to be bilateral. We go to question 3. It says gastric tube, mouth and anus, mouth, no anus. So here we'd have to think, well, does it have a mouth? Does it have an anus? And then we can classify from there. So have a go at just classifying all those different things. And sometimes you can come up with your own key to help you. So if we wanted to identify these, you just need to know the features of it. So if you were designing a key that would help you identify it, make sure you know different parts of what the proboscis is going to help with the eating, the antenna, the fangs, the head, the thorax, the legs, the abdomen, wing casing. And by looking at the differences here, you can then come up with a dichotomous key that allow you to group them into things via their species. So if we wanted to come up with one here, you'd then need to think something that would split them into two. So we'd look at all the pictures and think about, well, how can we split these? So we could just say in the basis of color to begin with. So you could like split them in color, and then from there start splitting them again. So you're always trying to divide them. If we're talking about, if we're always trying to divide them, then you go with something that helps. There's just a question that will split them into two groups until you can get down to the one you want. So we'd have a look. Does it have a snout? You'd look at the picture. Yes or no. Go to question 2. And then through the whole thing, you'd be able to then divide them up even further. Okay. Any questions? Just email me or just go onto Google Classroom, put them on there. I think there's a lot of information to take in. It's probably going to take you a long time to get loads of notes down, so do not stress about that. And then once you finish that, if you can do the exam questions, which are on Google Classroom as well. Okay. But like I said, any problems, get back to me. Thank you.